Hi, everybody. It's Stephanie Pearson here, and I wanted to provide for you all who could not attend my class last night in Portland, Oregon, what I taught about emotional aromatherapy. This is such a fun topic to talk about because this is how most people think about essential oils, but when you're working with a really high-quality oil, you can accomplish so much for your emotions. So I wanted to read over a few of the highlights that I took from a class I went to a few years ago. It was called Mood Management, and it was taught by Dr. David Hill, who is a huge essential oil advocate, and he's an MD, but he also has really gotten into the science of essential oils and works with researchers and has some really great information. And here are a few things he said. So 60% of the world today uses natural medicine as their primary source of healthcare. Pretty awesome. How do we change emotion normally? Well, we need to create a new perspective. We can alter emotion and memory through aroma by changing the neurochemistry. Emotions are fundamentally just neurochemistry. I think that there is more to it than this, but when you look at it on a physical level, that's what it is. And if you can change it on a physical level, then that will be your experience changed. We have primary and secondary chemical, neurological, and biological responses, and we can shape these with essential oils. So how you feel in your emotions becomes how you feel physically. So this is something that I actually teach to the kids I do Reiki workshops with, is we talk about when you're upset, where do you feel it? Like a lot of people feel it in their gut. If you're hurt, sometimes it's in your heart, but we tend to carry our emotions physically with us. And I think it's great to teach kids at a young age, something that I didn't get at a young age and most of us didn't get, and that is to identify when you're feeling something, where in your body you're feeling it. And to also empower them and empower ourselves to be able to do something about it. So with essential oils, we can decide how we want to feel. Sometimes I don't want to feel better and I want to wallow, and I think that everyone is inclined to do that once in a while. But now that I know how to use essential oils for mood, I can help those around me, my family, my friends, to transition out of a mood and literally like feel something different, and it happens instantly. One cool thing that I got from another class that I did is that when you bring in the world, you use your different senses. You use your sense of sight and hearing and smell and touch and taste. With scent, we don't have to go through our cerebral cortex, which is the thinking part of our brain. When you inhale essential oil, it goes straight to your limbic system, which is the ancient part of your brain and the seat of emotion. And people think of it as being very primal or reptilian, and that's because you just react. You don't have time to think about what you're experiencing and what you're bringing in. You just react. So when I see something, I'm thinking about it first. It's going to my cerebral cortex and getting filtered. But scent is the only interface that we have through our senses that we know of that goes straight to our limbic system without us thinking about it. And I think this is really powerful because it is a direct experience of the world. I want to talk just for a minute about quality. I think most of those of you listening already use high quality oils, but I want to give an example of how therapeutic quality oils are different from more conventional adulterated oils. So there was a study done by someone named Danielle Daniels, who's earning her, I believe, doctorate degree in emotions and aromatherapy. And she took a very pure jasmine, which I have right here. If you have jasmine, you can get it out and smell it. It's amazing. A very precious, expensive oil that's also almost always synthetic when you smell it at the grocery store. So the U.S. government does nothing to stipulate quality except for to say that 5% of what's in the bottle must be pure in order to label the bottle pure. So if something says pure organic jasmine, pure organic lavender, maybe it has 5% pure organic whatever plant it is, but the rest of it could be whatever. Like that's not regulated. So this bottle is 100% pure jasmine. In this research, they also had a bottle of synthetic jasmine. And what they did was they tested stress response. So they were looking at blood pressure, heart rate, respiration, just all the excitatory biological responses that people have when they're in a state of stress. or when they're in a state of relaxation. And what they found is that the synthetic jasmine, when inhaled, caused a stress response. And that's like a fight or flight adrenal response, whereas the natural pure jasmine caused a rest and repair parasympathetic response. So that's huge. That's opposite. I just think that it's important to note that, because when I first learned about high quality essential oils, I thought, well, of course, if I'm making chocolate or something, I want to use a really high quality oil because I'm putting a drop in my chocolate and I don't want to have any problems with internal use like that. Or, even on your skin, you think, oh, wow, I don't want to put anything on my skin that's maybe adulterated. But a lot of us don't think about inhalation. We think, oh, it's okay, I'll just keep those oils for the diffuser because that doesn't really matter. But what we learn with emotional aromatherapy and with just studying anything about like the aromatic use of oils is that this goes straight to your limbic system. Like I said, this goes straight into your brain. So it actually does really matter that you're using something pure. So I want to talk to you now about some of the tools that I use to figure out what oils to use for different emotions. So one thing you can do is you can just smell the oils, and whatever you love and you're drawn to will be really good for you. Also, what you hate and just dislike a lot may be really good for you when it comes to essential oils. For example, like there's some that I don't totally love. And I can give you an example, just like a generic example. So if someone is really closed, they're not open to trying new things, and they smell an oil that's for openness, they might be like, oh, that one's not for me. But it might not be that the oil is bad for them and that's why it smells bad. It might be that they actually need to try to work on openness, but they're not ready for that yet. They have some kind of emotional block or security that's holding them where they are emotionally. So they're not quite like going toward that. So sometimes oils can be interesting to look more deeply into. Like if you really hate a scent, you should look and say, what is that for? Why would I hate that one? And see if that resonates with you. Another kind of fun thing is geranium essential oil, which a lot of people love and a lot of people hate. It's kind of like the cilantro of essential oils. Here it is right now. I actually love this oil. This is one of the oils that made me love essential oils. I don't really like the smell that much, but I love what it does, which is to help me sleep deeply and to balance blood sugar. So with geranium, a lot of people don't like the smell, but I think it was Dr. Sue who figured out that when you smell something like geranium and you don't like the smell, it might be that you're not smelling all the notes. And one reason for that would be having a chronic ongoing sinus infection, which geranium happens to be really helpful for. So if you actually used it to help your sinuses, you might then come out of that then liking the smell because you've cleared away the block for yourself. And that's a physical example of how the ones we don't like can actually be good for us. Okay, so on to showing you some of the tools that I use. I'm going to share my screen and show you. Okay, here's this handout that I like to show people. I got this at that same workshop I went to on mood management. And so on this, it's a continuum. And you can go from feeling fatigued to feeling stressed. So when you talk to someone, this is really good to do for yourself, but you can also do it with someone else. So I work with a lot of moms in postpartum, and I might say, which one are you feeling more of, fatigue or stress? And then they tell me, and I can look and say, okay, they're feeling more fatigue, so they're up here. And then you can ask, what are you feeling more of? Are you feeling like you don't have peace or that you don't have passion? And then they'll tell me. And I know when I had little babies, I was in this serenity corner. And then some of the physical manifestations of this could be stomach ache or headache, anger or impatience. Like this to me came from serious sleep deprivation and just like not enough downtime. Other people who tend to get baby blues and be really down and withdrawn could be fatigued with no passion. So there are all different things you can be. When your kids get a little older, you can be without peace and also stressed. I see this a lot with people who work a lot and have really a lot of like demands on themselves. And then elevation is stress but no passion. This is to me how I used to get in the winter time when I had sort of seasonal affective disorder, which I don't have at all anymore. But I just felt like I was working so hard and like was just tired at the end of the day, and elevation really helped me with that. So you can just use this to go into these are the 4 main essential oil blends that doTERRA makes. And I like all of them. I don't feel like we're always in one corner. I feel like we move around. And so it's kind of fun to have all 4 and then use this chart and get to know how this is. And I will post these resources as well in the files on this page. Here's another chart that I use. So these are 6 more oils that doTERRA makes. And this is sort of a new line. They come in these bottles. And then if you can see me in this small window, they also come in these roller bottles. So you can also get all 6 like this, where you can apply them topically. They're mixed with coconut oil. So maybe better for younger kids, or if you just, I mean, I use this all the time. Like anyone can use these, but my jam is Motivate. Like I love Motivate. I'm looking now. Let's look at how moody I am. Apathetic, insecure, anxious, discouraged, gloomy, distressed. So I might have some of those tendencies. I don't really get anxious. I think I can get discouraged. That's where I think I live in the discouraged realm sometimes. Not all the time, but Motivate helps you to kickstart your day and be really inspired by the work you're doing and what you have going on, so you don't feel down about anything. But you can look at these feelings and see maybe where you're living. Like I have one of my kids that's he's kind of more sad and grieving. He just takes things really hard, and he tends to like this console. Like it's amazing to get how it gets him out of his moods. And then another of my children she's more anxious and fearful and not really insecure, but just like, oh gosh, there's a coyote in the neighborhood. I'm not going down to the streets, like that kind of thing. And she actually really just loves the smell of peace. So before I even sat down and thought about these emotions, I just had my family smell all of them and put them in the order that they like best. And these came out on top. And then I looked at the feelings, was like, oh yeah. So remember that these are actually changing the balance of the neurotransmitters in your brain. They're changing them. Another thing I learned at the conference that I went to is that Daniels is doing or did some research comparing lavender essential oil to Prozac, and lavender in the study actually came out ahead of Prozac for helping with depression. So that's pretty cool. And then positive instead of negative side effects. Another thing that she said is that there was a counselor working with a girl that was having psychotic episodes, grade school aged. And she came into the office one day and they were diffusing Citrus Bliss, which you'll remember, is for fatigued and no passion. So this girl was really down and then having psychotic episodes. They were diffusing that, and the little girl actually went over to the diffuser and put it in her lap and just like sat there inhaling it. And she was so connected to it, the whole appointment, that they sent her home with it and sent her home with the bottle. And she never had another psychotic episode after that. So I think that's amazing. I really love that people are seeing a lot of change, and I hope that more of us will learn how to use these for people that really need them. So these all come together. You can buy these separately, or you can buy them all together with a diffuser. It's actually one of the enrollment kits that people can choose, and it's a really great one. And here's another chart. So you're saying, well, I don't have the blends, but I want to try this. So this is another chart, and I think it was like under $5 for me to buy this. Here's the real thing. So you see there's 2 sides to it, and they make this so you can't really read it online, but the orange and red side is for positive emotions. So this is what you want to feel. So you can look through and be like, oh, joy, or safety. And then when you're under the safety realm, you can say, I want to feel supported, protected, expressive, self-contained, like which one sounds more like what you want. And then depending on what it is, you can look at what is available to you for that. And a few of them are blends, but a lot of them are singles. Like under acceptance, there's body acceptance, and that's grapefruit. And I think that one's really interesting because it also helps with cellulite, and it also helps detoxify. And so if someone is having trouble accepting their body and then they start using grapefruit, the side effect of using that for emotions might be that they're actually helping their body to get rid of toxins they're holding on to, toxic thoughts, but also toxins that are making their body maybe not as beautiful as it could be because they're holding on to this, and you have cellulite. So these are pretty fun to look at, and I'm looking at clove, which I don't like, and that's clear boundaries. I definitely don't have clear boundaries. I have the kind of bed that you have the dog and the cat in, and they're dirty, and then the kids come and wake you up, and it's like, I love it in a sense, but like that's where I am in my life, where there's not a lot of like me putting aside the boundary, like my family comes into it. So maybe that's why that's not a good one for me yet, to like create those boundaries. I'm not ready for that yet. And then the other side is for negative emotions. So you can look, okay, maybe you're overwhelmed. Is it materialistic? Is it overwork? Is it irresponsibility? Like, what is causing you to feel overwhelmed? Is it fatigue? And then you can choose which oil, like tangerine, white fir, fennel, Douglas fir. Fatigue is basil. So this is pretty cool, right? And again, I'll put the resources under this. And then there's also this really cool book where this is what it looks like. And it's called Emotions and Essential Oils, a Modern Resource for Healing. And it's really pretty useful to look up which blends you're really drawn to. So like maybe I'm drawn, what am I drawn to right now? I could look up a real one that I'm drawn to. Peppermint. I love peppermint. And it says the oil of buoyant heart. And it brings joy and buoyancy to the heart and soul, invigorates the body and mind, reminds individuals they can be happy, there's nothing to fear. It helps in times of depression and discouragement. So again, back to the discouragement for me. This one I've actually used at, I was working at the first aid booth at a concert, like a festival, and there were all these medics there, and then I had like my essential oils, and this man came in and he was just absolutely a wreck. Like he wanted us to call an ambulance. He was hyperventilating. He looked like he'd been up all night, and he was very thin, and he'd been out in the sun too much and was probably dehydrated. And the medics didn't know what to do. They were about to call like an ambulance. They were checking him, which was great. I wanted him to get that medical help for sure. So definitely not undermining that branch of medicine. But once they like took a break and left him, I peeked my head in the tent and was like, are you interested in trying some aromatherapy? And he's like, yeah. And then I said, go get this guy a smoothie to someone, because I was like, he needs sugar, right? He's having like a shock moment. So they went and got the smoothie while I was doing this, but I gave him peppermint, and it just like, he inhaled it and he went, oh, thank you. And on his exhale said, thank you. And his shoulders dropped, and he was just like, his eyes open, and he was so clear. And it just woke him up to the moment, because he was panicking. He was worried that everything was out of control, and that he was kind of lost in his fear. And this just brought him back into a moment of clarity and gave him energy. And then I could say to him, hey, you're going to be okay. You just need some sugar. You just need to like take care of yourself. You've been up too late and drinking too much and in the sun and whatever else he was doing. And he's like, okay, and then I had him look at the mood management chart, which I had with me, and we figured out where he was, and we figured out that he needed serenity, and he had an inhalation of that. And how we're doing this is just putting a drop in the hand and then smelling deeply. And he had some of that, and then he started crying, and his friend was there, and she held him. And I think that's just exactly what he needed to do. And it just kind of cleared it out. He had a smoothie, and he's like, oh my gosh, thank you. Like, that was amazing. So that's just one experience. I've had so many like this, but I think that you'll find that this is a really beautiful thing to offer to people. And here I am again. I think that that's it. So I will post some information about what I talked about. And if you guys want to try some of this stuff, it'll be below this video. Thanks for watching.